Listen, I know it's Thursday. I know the show is called PLA Wednesday. I know I forgot what day of the week it is. But at the same time, no, I didn't. Shut up. Let's talk about Backlash 2025. Because we're talking the match card. We're talking last minute news. We're talking spoilers. We're going to start just with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, the only women's match on the card. And for the Intercontinental Championship, quite possibly the least prestigious championship in the company, through no fault of Lyra Valkyria, because everyone has basically forgotten that she's there. The only reason they seem to be focusing so much on this is because Becky Lynch returned, and unfortunately, spoilers, that's where the focus is. Lyra Valkyria is there. She will undoubtedly be a major part of this, but will she win? I can't see it. If anything, this win and the whole Becky 2 belts and the whole Becky Hogan business will be the security they need for a heel turn. People do not like Becky Lynch heel turns. Historically, if she doesn't come back and immediately win gold, people aren't willing to go with them at all. Do you not remember how she returned and attacked Bianca Belair? Ruined. And also the only way they could get her to be booed. So I do think Becky Lynch wins this, becomes the Women's Intercontinental Champion, and then moves on to feuding with Bayley. Becky Lynch is already under consideration to join the Rollins-Heyman-Breaker faction for what I feel are obvious reasons, before The Rock gets involved and turns the whole thing to, I was going to say gold, but what's the opposite of gold? Begins with an SH. Anyway, I do think Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, that combination will ensure that that particular faction works brilliantly. The Rock should stay away from it, but Becky Lynch as a heel can work. It just means a significant beatdown of a rising star in the form of Lyra Valkyria. Probably also cutting the legs off her because she's not had the time to become a rising star. Becky Lynch is eager to work with Valkyria for the championship, almost entirely because after she won the championship, the WWE kind of forgot that Valkyria existed. This has been a big help. They've been testing her with promos, the recycling one notwithstanding, because it wasn't great. But Becky Lynch is working directly with Lyra Valkyria to try and make this a statement feud. Will they succeed? So far, no. So far, no. But Becky Lynch is eager to work with Valkyria in the same way that, in fact, Bayley was. Bayley feuded with and subsequently tagged with Valkyria for that exact same reason. Now the WWE determined that Becky versus Bayley will be the big Intercontinental Championship feud in the women's division going into SummerSlam. A 2-night SummerSlam, meaning they can have more women's matches on the card than just the one that they've got here. If anything, the match is only on the card because of Lynch, even though other areas and other championships are starting to get some traction. Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green has been fun, but it's also been going on forever. When it comes to Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair both look set to take some time off. Rhea Ripley at least taking the show off, as is Io Sky, with Bianca Belair taking off a little longer. The only other championship on the women's side which could potentially appear would be on the SmackDown side, Tiffany Stratton, where they're building her to take on Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax was considered as a number one contendership match, but that's not what we've got to yet because of the focus on Cargill versus Stratton. A word on Charlotte Flair, this seems the ideal time to say it. She is taking time off pending a potential move away from SmackDown to Raw. There are a number of concerns in WWE about personal issues, and this is potentially going to be moving her away from Nia Jax. However, moving her away from Nia Jax means moving her onto the same brand as Andrade, and there's a lot of personal issues there as well. Means moving her onto the same brand as Becky, and there are a lot of personal issues there as well. Charlotte Flair's in a bit of catch-22. There's also some issues with Tiffany Stratton that has mostly been swept under the carpet now. But there's a lot going on with Charlotte Flair, so I don't expect to see her back immediately. Though I do think a beating of Nia Jax is well overdue. Moving on then to Dominic Mysterio versus Penta for the Men's Intercontinental Championship. Triple H is eager to see if Dirty Dom's face turn is genuinely on the cards. That's why he sent Dominic Mysterio back down to the ring at WrestleMania to really milk the cheers, as I said live at the time. Penta, however, is in a much more difficult situation. He's a bit part player. He's not being pushed seriously because WWE were hoping for the Lucha Bros in time for Mania, where they were trying to get a TLC match together and eventually got rid of it for War Raiders versus the New Day. Not a great match. That said, the TLC match they had on SmackDown eventually was fantastic. and the Lucha Brothers would have added to it. So this is something that I expect the WWE to try and revisit at some point. For me, Dominic retains here, primarily because there's just not much focus on Penta beyond let's get him in matches, and also because Judgment Day. The story for the Intercontinental Championship is Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor, but there's also a lot more going on with Finn Balor. Just to talk about the finish, Dominic retains because of Judgment Day, particularly JD McDonough, rather than Finn Balor. This then begins for me the Lucha Brothers tag team, as for me Rey Fenix will assist Penta to make sure that the beatdown doesn't become too heavy. This then gives us the Lucha Bros going forwards for about a year before they return to singles competition. As regards Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, this is planned. However, there are some things in the way right now. The possible face turn for Dominic, which is right there on a plate for them, has confused things. The plan long term was a Balor face turn, primarily because there's been talk of a three-way union between Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles and Finn Balor, something Cody Rhodes had been building towards before his match with John Cena, hence throwing up the Kitsune. This has been mooted as a possibility to counteract the combination of The Rock, Travis Scott and John Cena, and it's something that all three men, Rhodes, Styles and Balor, have asked for. In fact, the WWE believe it might be what they need to convince AJ Styles to sign a new deal, throwing up those two sweets and celebrating. Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley, Jey Uso and Io Sky are just some of the big names missing this event. AJ Styles I wouldn't necessarily consider that big a name at this point, but that's before we even get to the huge names like Roman, Rollins, CM Punk, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. Yes, one of them no longer works for the company, but a man can dream, okay? We move on now to the United States Championship, and this should be a barn burner. I think this is going to be match of the night, which is why I placed it slap bang in the middle. Jacob Fatu, now fully established, versus former champ LA Knight, and then some big names of former world champions in Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. A fatal four-way that I think is going to live for the ages. Jacob Fatu, as I'm sure everyone is now aware, he is the jewel in the bloodline crown right now, with everyone up to and including Roman Reigns desperate to work with him. This match essentially the changing of the guard for the US title, and also a significant drop down for Priest and even more so for Drew McIntyre. However, as I've been mentioning on Spoiler Warning, while it's a drop for McIntyre, he's been looking to give back for a while. It's why he enjoyed working with Priest at WrestleMania. It's why he wants to work with this combination of people now. He's been pushing to work with LA Knight since the Royal Rumble when there was something of an issue between them. It was swept under the carpet very quickly, and Drew McIntyre and LA Knight had a conversation which essentially led to let's work together more. That's again Drew McIntyre trying to give back to the people around him and people he's looking to work with and elevate. Whether or not it works with LA Knight, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, while LA Knight and Jacob Fatu put on a great show at WrestleMania, there are still many in WWE who aren't altogether impressed by LA Knight's general output. The jury's still out, unfortunately. As regards Damian Priest, they're trying to keep him on a relatively high level, but chances for him to be elevated are expected to be few and far between. He was a world champion, but he was never a main eventer, and it shows. Moving away from Judgment Day, moving away from Rhea Ripley, is harming his overall aura. He's looking to get back to where he was previously. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu want to help him get there. But this match is about Jacob Fatu. The match should be addictive chaos, but the focus is almost entirely on a future Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu feud, which I've got to say, sounds absolutely amazing. For me, the winner will be Jacob Fatu, retaining with heavy involvement from Solo Sikoa. Yes, it's 2 matches back-to-back of outside interference, but Solo Sikoa's got to get attention somehow. As regards Solo, fans have turned in a big way, and WWE just aren't planning any major push for him anytime soon. Jacob Fatu is getting all of the bloodline attention. Solo Sikoa is just sort of there. A few more people missing, and this does connect to the releases that have happened recently. There will be no Alexa Bliss and no Wyatt Six again. There was talk, and there is continuing talk, of an Alexa Bliss versus Tiffany Stratton program at some point soon, but planned storylines involving Braun Strowman have had to be written out completely, and there's been a clear pivot away from Alexa Bliss towards Nia Jax and Jade Cargill. So Alexa Bliss hasn't really been involved when it comes to that championship. Being paired with the Wyatt Six, and I'm talking for both Bliss and Braun Strowman, and in fact the entirety of the Wyatt Six, no longer seems like a positive career move, and I'm told multiple members are starting to rethink their recent commitments in the fact that they simply haven't had any opportunities since joining the faction. We move on now to Gunther versus Pat McAfee, and honestly, I think this match should have been full-on unsanctioned, but that would potentially have made it a main event, and you're not going to displace the main event that they've actually got. This match is designed to keep Gunther strong and to regain his heat after another loss at WrestleMania. His WrestleMania record is enjoyably terrible. But for me, Pat McAfee isn't necessarily the ideal choice of opponent. There are unfortunately rumours that McAfee is going to be written off TV again, and this is how it's going to be done. He's not able to commit to a full-time schedule, certainly not in the way that a Michael Cole is. What an insane man he is to commit to the level that he has. The man never takes a day off. There are no real stakes in this match, but it should still be at least somewhat entertaining. Pat McAfee is very athletic, and he does have the fans behind him. Gunther, meanwhile, is a destructive force akin to nothing, and I'm told that Pat McAfee is more than willing to take a significant beating to make this guy look good. I can see Gunther continuing his break again afterwards, having done the damage, but it'll be damage that we remember for years to come. Pat McAfee more than willing to make someone else look good, and you've got to respect the man for it. There is no tag team wrestling planned of any sort, despite a great showing from the SmackDown tag division and the desperate need to have New Day versus War Raiders on a WrestleMania card. How the New Day were almost completely forgotten after that. They've made appearances, they've been involved, they're simply not a focus, and I don't understand, even in hindsight, why they were so keen to get them on the WrestleMania card. As regards to women's tag team titles, I'm told there are enough women's tag teams to maintain focus on those belts once Liv Morgan returns, but she is away filming a movie at the moment, and the WWE have more than enough championships to split the focus in different directions. Other matches are simply considered much more important at current than anything tag team related, and the WWE draft will ensure that the TLC match, the DIY, the Motor City Machine Guns, Street Profits, Pretty Deadly, are going to be broken up in that draft and spread out. I think it's a shame, but I'm also excited for the concept of a face Pretty Deadly against a heel New Day. I think that would be a very flamboyant and colourful matchup. We go then to our main event, and it's the one obvious marquee match. In fact, looking at the card overall, yes, they've got Becky Lynch, yes, they've got Drew McIntyre. This is where the star power is. This is where the experience is. WWE have dumped some of their biggest star power they've ever had for the final time, John Cena versus Randy Orton. I'm not going to sit here and say this is going to be a great match. It's not. With John Cena's current wrestling style of he's going to ruin wrestling, and Randy Orton's forever wrestling style of slow-paced and methodical, this is not going to be a high-tempo affair. The match itself, I'll put my name on it, will be average, but the crowd will make it unforgettable. For the result, I have a straight, if unclean, win for John Cena, though there is a fun sort of overbooking situation where Cody Rhodes returns to back Orton up against an extra Travis Scott. I can't say it's likely. I don't see it, as we've heard nothing about Scott travelling to or appearing at Backlash, and the same can be said of The Rock. The Rock checked out of this whole John Cena storyline months ago. And to be honest, so has everyone else. You know what we've not seen a lot of? The Rock and Randy Orton. We've not seen much engagement there. So if you wanted to make this fresh and interesting and not basically just a celebration of history, you could have had at least something involving The Rock and Randy Orton. But we've had nothing. It's all been built around one more time. John Cena himself has hardly been there. And unfortunately, while I do think this will be a match that fans really get into, I think the match will be average. I think the storyline isn't there. And I think without their history, this goes down as one of the most forgettable pay-per-views. So, yeah, there's that. I have one championship changing hands. That is the Women's Intercontinental Championship. After that, I feel like, unfortunately, I'm agreeing with the predictions for the favourites here. If you want to know more about the WWE releases, we've got the video on screen now which you can click, which will tell you more than you can find anywhere else about that. In the meantime, have a great day.